Recently, I watched a video by Dave Ramsey where he described the process of going through bankruptcy as hell. In this video, I'm going to answer that question. Is it hell to go through the bankruptcy process?
Hello? Can everybody, okay. I'm the hell director. It looks like we have about 8,615 of you newbies today. And for those of you who were a little confused, you are dead and this is hell. So abandon all hope and yada, yada, yada.
If this is your first time to my YouTube channel, go ahead and click subscribe. That way you can get instant access to the content that we put out every single week that helps you deal with serious debt problems. Let's talk about this characterization by Dave Ramsey that when he went through bankruptcy, that it was hell for him and his family. I don't doubt that that's completely true. The bankruptcy process is a serious process. It's very powerful for eliminating debt, but it can be difficult to go through. In this video, I want to go over 3 different items where I want to respond to the video that Dave put out and tell you why I somewhat disagree with what he's stating there. And I also want to provide you one of the areas that I'm in complete agreement with Dave Ramsey as it relates to bankruptcy. I should tell you this as background. I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey. I've actually taught Financial Peace University. My wife and I try to live by the standards that are found in his program. And I'm also a master financial coach. I got certified through his organization to help people to get out of debt without using bankruptcy. The way that I view my job as a bankruptcy attorney in the state of Arizona is I look for different solutions to help my clients get through serious debt, whether it's through a Dave Ramsey snowball type approach, or whether it's a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. These are all different tools that can help people deal with serious debt problems. Let me give you my estimate, why Dave Ramsey referred to the process as hell when he went through Chapter 7 bankruptcy back in the 80s. Now, just from the outside and from what I've read of Dave Ramsey's story, I would probably agree that his bankruptcy is what a lot of us bankruptcy attorneys would call a messy Chapter 7 bankruptcy case. The reason why is because at the time that he filed bankruptcy, he had been very successful right prior to the filing of it. If you know Dave's story, when he was 18, he got his real estate license, and then very quickly he built up a pretty big real estate empire for his area. He said at one point he had $4 million worth of real estate, coupled with about $3 million of loans that were going with that. And then the owners of the bank changed and they called all his notes. So even though he was on time on his notes, they gave him a very short period of time to pay back that $3 million. He wasn't able to do it. He ended up, he says, with hundreds of lawsuits. He had commercial lenders going after different properties, and then they were actually trying to go after some of his personal property. All of that equates to a messy Chapter 7. There's a lot of moving parts. There's commercial loans involved. There's a lot of lawsuits. There's already attorneys involved. That is not the typical bankruptcy. The bankruptcy that Dave Ramsey went through, my guess from what, I don't have any inside information obviously on this, but from what he has told us, his bankruptcy would have been messy and would likely have been much more stressful than the typical Chapter 7 bankruptcy. In this video, he also references a few items that I wanted to respond to directly. The first one is that they're going to go through all of your stuff, meaning if they file for bankruptcy, everyone's going to go through, somebody is going to go through your belongings and really kind of invade your privacy a bit. It's true that the bankruptcy process is invasive in that you are required to disclose all of your assets. You're required to disclose all of your debts. You're required to disclose many of the financial transactions that you've been involved in over the last couple of years. But as far as somebody actually coming to your house and going through your stuff, I've been doing this for nearly 20 years. I've never seen that happen once. There are thousands and hundreds of thousands of cases that are filed each year. There simply isn't the manpower to go through everybody's home and through their drawers to determine exactly what they have. The bankruptcy process works on a disclosure principle. Basically, they say, we're going to require you to disclose your assets, and if you don't, there are heavy penalties, including criminal penalties, if you don't disclose all of your assets in your bankruptcy. So while it's true you are going to have to disclose various assets, it's not something where someone's coming to your house and literally going through your drawers. The second thing that he brings up is that everyone has rights to your stuff. And while it is true in a Chapter 7, if you have non-exempt assets, they will be liquidated and the money given to your creditors. So if you have assets that are not protected by one of the federal exemptions or the exemption laws in your state that protect your stuff, that asset can be sold, the money taken and given to your creditors. Even Dave mentions in his video that 98% of Chapter 7 cases are what are called no asset cases. That means that there's no distribution of money to creditors. So in 98% of the cases that are filed, there's no assets that are sold because either there are no assets or there are state exemptions or federal exemptions that protect the various assets that the person has. For instance, here in Arizona, where I practice law, you're entitled to a homestead exemption that protects up to $150,000 of equity in your home. At the time that I'm recording this video, each spouse is entitled to a vehicle with up to $6,000 of equity in it. There's household belongings where there's equity that you're allowed in there. There's exemptions for pretty much everything, including retirement accounts. So while it's true that your creditors do have rights to the non-exempt assets that you own, in most cases, in 98% of the cases, it's not a big issue. The third thing he brings up is that your secured debts don't go away. So as he put it, you end up filing bankruptcy for $8,000 of credit card debt. It's true, if you have a home loan or a car loan, those debts do not go away unless you surrender the car or if you surrender the home. If you want to keep your house, if you want to keep your car, you're required to continue to make the payments on those. However, how he states that, so you end up filing bankruptcy for $8,000 of credit card debt, I can tell you that's very rare when someone files bankruptcy for a minimal amount of money. Mostly, I can tell you that most bankruptcy attorneys are very ethical in this area, that they would never push someone into a bankruptcy that doesn't really need it. $8,000 is generally on the low side. I can tell you most people that I see that file bankruptcy have over $20,000 of credit card debt. But it is a case-by-case situation. There is no specific dollar limit that you have to file for bankruptcy. I have had clients before who have had under $10,000 of bankruptcy or $10,000 of debt, but it may as well have been $10 million because they didn't have the ability based upon their employment to make that work. So I don't see that happen very often where people are filing bankruptcy for $8,000 of credit card debt. If that's what you had and you have regular employment, then my recommendation is that you do something like a Dave Ramsey plan where you can just pay that back over time using something like the debt snowball. Well, let me give you, to wrap this up, the one area where I completely agree with Dave Ramsey, and that's why I use his programs in my law practice. And that is that bankruptcy does not change the behavior that got you there. So if you find yourself in a bad debt situation and you don't want to avoid it, bankruptcy does not do anything for that. Bankruptcy is very powerful and a great tool for getting rid of the debt, but as far as changing your behavior that led to getting into that situation in the first place, it's horrible. And that's where I do recommend Financial Peace University and really learning that process, because just a portion of that is getting out of debt. A lot of it is helping to stay out of debt in the future. So bankruptcy can help you there, but you don't want to end up in bankruptcy again. And that's why I often recommend to my clients that they go through that program even after they file for bankruptcy. Appreciate you watching today. If you want to learn more about topics like getting out of debt through bankruptcy, Dave Ramsey's program, go ahead and subscribe here and you'll get access to all the videos that we have here on the YouTube channel. Thanks for watching today.